My bung hole's all nice and shiny. Well, around the hole's still dirty, but the rest of it's nice and clean. How's it going, everyone? Mike with this old hot rod. It's been a couple of weeks since I've really been out in the shop. Been super busy with work. Just life in general. So appreciate everybody being patient. Thanks to everybody who has reached out. I'm okay. I'm just a really busy guy. You guys know that. I stay real busy in the garage during the winter time. But when summertime or springtime hits, I kind of end up being an all-around busy guy. I got 14 acres here where I live, and a good portion of it's landscaped. So I have basically a full-time job with my yard care. So between that, just kind of doing things with Allie and my kids and my mom. And my mom's got a big piece of property not far from me in the same town where I grew up. It's a big horse farm, and I've been spending some time down there helping her. So just kind of, like I said, just been a real busy guy. Alright, so what we're going to do is I'm going to pull the 30 out. I got to grab the cherry picker. I got an engine hoist outside the shop. So I'm going to go grab that cherry picker, and I'm going to get to work on pulling this motor and transmission. Once that's out, I will have access to get the front axle removed and also the rear axle. So I'll be able to get the frame off of the rolling assembly. Be able to lift the frame off the suspension. And then at that point, I'll be able to actually finish weld the suspension, finish weld radius rod mount, button up some work underneath the X-member where the pedal assembly is mounted. Where the pedals move, I had to relieve an area on the bottom of the X-member on the driver's side, where it attaches to the bottom portion of the frame. So I got to actually rebuild that section. I don't know, maybe I'll paint the frame. I'm not sure yet. I'm still kind of on the fence. I don't know, we'll see. But let's get this coupe out of here. Go for a little ride. I gotta run up to AutoZone. I'm gonna do an oil change on this weekend. So it's a nice day. I'm gonna take this thing for a drive. Run up to AutoZone, grab some, I think it's a Valvoline VR1. Yeah, let's go for a ride. Now come back, we'll get to work on the T. Alright guys, so I'm back. Ran a couple of errands, ran up to AutoZone like I said. Wanted mulch for the yard. You know, driving the car. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go grab the engine lift. What's up, Wessie? Want to give me a hand, bud? You want to help me? Yeah? I would appreciate it. I hate these damn things. Especially with a gravel driveway. Watch out. Alright, so I'm going to grab some straps. I'm going to get this thing hoisted up and then lift it out of the car. Got about an hour to work on this thing, and then I got to grab Dylan off the bus. Then I'll be back here for a little bit longer, and then I got to take Dylan to CrossFit tonight. Never a dull moment. Alright, sorry guys, battery died, didn't realize it. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to set the bottom of the front of the frame down. I'm going to I got to undo the U-bolts over the rear spring, lift off the chassis up the rear axle, and that's going to be it. What I'll be able to do then is flip the axle over, get everything finished welded. Like I said, finish welding some spots on the bottom of the X-member, and that's pretty much it. I noticed that this front crossmember is pretty cut. I may beef it up a little bit, add a little bit of steel to it. I'm a little nervous to weld it and warp it, but I think I gotta do something to it, because it's, whoever, you know, modified this frame years ago really did a number on that front crossmember. So I'm gonna get this thing lowered down and get the back all disassembled. See if I can get this thing to spin around. Out, bud. Yeah. I'm sure I probably don't even need the hoist, but it's just gonna make my life easy by using it. I know a lot of you guys follow me on social media, and about 3 weeks ago I was helping a friend of mine, Sean, work on his Roadster. I had a rear spring pack explode on me after it was clamped, after it was bolted, and we were putting it up inside the car underneath the crossmember. At that point, you're basically done, minus putting the U-bolts on and attaching the shocks and whatnot. The rear axle was still connected, the torque tube was still connected underneath the car and the transmission, so I was up underneath the car, sitting with my legs out underneath the rear axle, sitting right in front of right behind the rear crossmember, and the spring pack exploded. My left arm got thrown up. I hurt my elbow. That was my initial reaction was, oh man, I hurt my elbow, but after 3 or 4 days, it dawned on me that it wasn't really my elbow that I should be worried about. It was my shoulder. And my shoulder's still really bothering me, so I've kind of just been taking it easy lately. The reason I say that is that's why I really want to use the hoist and not, you know, hurt my shoulder anymore. I'm not one to go to the doctor, but I'm smart enough to realize things that I can do to minimize hurting myself anymore. We did get the rear spring put back together on Sunday, so the car's all ready to go. He's got a few things he wants to do to it now, but the rear axle and everything's put back under the car, and it's rolling and it's ready to go. Alright, So this should just pop off, and what I have to do is roll the rear axle out and get the torque tube to come out with it. I'm just going to let the frame down and then drag the frame out and then pull the rear axle assembly out. There we go. There we go. Now she's a roller again. Alright. Cool. So now guys, what I can do is flip the rear axle assembly over. Like this. I can clean up on the front of the torque tube, get my radius rod. I got to put a bung on here and get my radius rods welded on, and then I'll get my mounts and then my shock mounts finish welded. That's really all I need to do on this. Maybe give it a quick cleaning. That's it, the car's disassembled. I need to go get Dylan off the bus. I'll be back and we're gonna drag some things outside. All right guys, I'm back. I got a little bit of time before I gotta get Dylan to CrossFit. Ellie and I signed him up for CrossFit about a month and a half ago or so. So I gotta get him out to CrossFit. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna get to work on cleaning up a couple of the areas on the rear axle assembly. Again, the areas I need to focus on are the mount on the torque tube where the radius rods mount to, and then also where the radius rods mount to the axle tubes. I'll show you real quick. So what I did, for those who weren't here at the beginning of this build, the radius rods typically mount right on the surface of the backing plate. The reason why, so Model A's, they actually mount on the front. So these are V8 rear axle radius rods. So what I ended up doing was I shortened them and then I put mounts. I made my own mounts out of 1/4-inch plate and moved them inbound of the frame rails. The reason why is the underside, the top of the radius rod would hit the underside of the frame rail if they were all the way out where they're supposed to be. So I just moved them in. I think I moved them in about 6 inches, and I have full clearance on the frame rail, so now there's no interference, so the suspension should move freely. But what I need to do is I need to weld these permanently. They're just tacked in place at the moment. But what I'm going to make sure that I leave the radius rods on. I don't want anything moving around. What I need to do first before I actually do that is I want to get the front of the front mount on the radius rods done first, because I don't want them moving around when I'm welding the back. Alright, so on the front of the axles, or the front of the radius rods, where it mounts to the torque tube, typically they mount all the way up in the front here, but because the frame has an X member in it, I wasn't able to run them all the way up to where they typically mount. The X member essentially ends right here, so these were as long as I could possibly make them. I have to finish weld these as well. These are just tacked in place also. These are the original ends. What I did was I cut the radius rod, shortened them, cut the ends, crimped them together a little bit to make them a smaller diameter, and then I pounded them inside the radius rods. And now, like I said, they're tack welded for the moment. I need to finish weld these, and I need to go get the bung that they're supposed to mount to off of another frame, torque tube. I'm gonna grab a torque tube out of my parts pile out back. I'm gonna cut the bung off. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about, and then I'm gonna get that welded in place. I'll be right back. All right, so this is the torque tube that I'm gonna use. And you can see here, that's the bung that I need. So you can see it's mounted on a plate, and then that plate is mounted to the torque tube. And I'm gonna cut that off, hoping that it comes off. And then I can get this bung welded to the torque tube. and move on to the next thing. I only have a few hours to work on this, if that. I'm actually going to see if I can get this separated. There's two pieces of steel there. See if I can get that separated from the oily part. That's why you don't throw anything away, people. You can always use it. Hello. So this is the part that I need. To make that, or to buy it, it's a lot of money, especially when everybody probably has one of these kicking around. So hang on to your extra parts, because they probably will come in handy and keep your build going forwards. That's gonna go right there. And it fits on there perfectly. Now what I need to do is I need to get these mounts put back on the rear axle, put a bolt through the center of everything, get everything lined up right where it needs to be, get that tacked in place, pull it apart, and then weld it. That. Tighten these up now. Alright, now it's time to get this bung welded onto the torque tube. So you can see what's nice about using the original Ford parts is the radius on that mount is exactly the radius of the torque tube. You can see, like I said before, these are just tack welded in place. I noticed a few minutes ago, I don't know that you can see it or not, I think you can. That's a pretty good crack right there, so I'm going to end up having to clean that up and get that crack welded. Hopefully it will weld. It should. So I got to weld this onto here, weld these in place, get these mounts finish welded to the axle tube, and get my lower shock mounts welded also. Alright, that's done. That's all welded on there. So now what I got to do is get these cleaned up. You can see there's actually a pretty good sized gap there, so I got a lot of weld to fill in that, and same as on the other side. So it's gonna take me a few minutes. I'll take my time with it. I'll weld some areas, and I'll just keep bouncing back and forth to make sure I don't overheat the area. These I can do up on the bench. Next thing I need to do is weld the front mounts on the radius rods themselves. So I'm gonna get those cleaned up real quick with the flap disc, get those finish welded, and then get those put back on the axle. We're gonna move a few things on the workbench, get these radius rods cleaned up real quick where I gotta weld them, throw a quick bead on them, and then I'm gonna let them sit. Alright, so what I'm gonna work on now is I'm gonna get these ends welded in place 100%. And after I get that done, I'm gonna flip these around and we're gonna get my shock mounts, my lower shock mounts welded on. They're on there now, but they're not welded all that great. They're kind of just tacked on. Alright, the shock mounts are good. Alright, something I noticed was on the front ends of the radius rods, this would be the driver's side. So on the driver's side, I tack welded the end in. The passenger side, I noticed I didn't. And I don't know why. So what I'm going to do is I think we're going to roll the rear axle back out. I'm going to put these back on the rear axle, bolt them in 100%, and I'm going to make sure that it's exactly where it needs to be. I don't think it moved at all, but I don't know why I didn't weld it. So I just want to double check everything and make sure my measurements are right. And I don't want to put it all together after the fact and have something not be right because I shouldn't have welded it. Let's grab that rear axle, grab all the hardware, and put this back in. So there's a few spots that I can't get to because of they're underneath the torque tube because the radius rods are mounted still. So what I need to do is I need to unbolt these now, put them up on the bench, and then finish weld them. It's just like 1 inch on each one, and then that's it. She ripped my damn pants, man. Caught them on the edge of the drawer of my toolbox. I think they're both cracked. I'm going to show you guys the crack. Pretty sure you can see that right here. It looks like it's got some booger weld on it, like someone had actually tried to repair it in the past. I don't know if you can see it or not. Alright guys, sorry if it got a little dark there at the end. Sun kind of screws things up with the camera. Alright, that's gonna be it. That's gonna be it for me. Gonna get things ready so I can take Dylan to CrossFit. Appreciate everybody following along. Appreciate all the support. Thank you to everybody for the messages. Checking in on me, making sure I'm okay. I'm good, just busy. It's a busy time of year. Not just for me, for everybody. And when I don't have anything to do, sometimes I just want to go hop in the car, me and Allie, go for a drive, go for dinner, whatever, you know. Just get to live. I try not to let these cars and the videos consume my entire life. So thanks everybody who has gone on the website and purchased merchandise from the website, This Old Hot Rod merchandise, whether it's a t-shirt, hat. I've shipped out a bunch of t-shirts recently. So thank you to those people who have, again, like I said, have been on the website. T-shirts, I got hats, stickers. I also have some really cool louvered brass key fobs. It's from a local guy who's been doing louvers since 1976. His name is Roy Eidman. So thanks to Roy who made those for me about a year ago now. So I've sold quite a few of those recently as well. So again, appreciate everybody who's been on the website, thisoldhotrod.com. That's it. Thanks everybody for following along. Appreciate the support. You're keeping the lights on over here in the shop. I haven't spent a ton of time lately in the garage. Again, I've just been busy. But you guys are all, you know, very understanding. You guys appreciate what I'm doing. It's very humbling when people tell me in person, when people message me and tell me that every single week they look forward to the videos. Sometimes I take it for granted for what I've created, let's just say. I know I have a pretty good sized following across the world, and again, it's very humbling, so thank you to everybody who's been following along. I'm gonna try to stay moving on the T just to get this thing hopefully put back together pretty soon. I want to drive it this summer. There's really no reason why I shouldn't be able to. All the fabrication work is done. And I'm just looking forward to finishing up some welding. I got some welding to do on the underside of the body. I got some welding to do on the firewall. It may not be 100% done by the time I put it together, but if the thing will run and drive down the street, I can then kind of pick away at some odds and ends. And I'm sure I'm going to be fixing some things and changing some things along the way, because that's just the nature of the beast when you build these cars. Appreciate everyone watching. Thanks again. See you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.